The night was calm on the colony world. The air was cool, and the twin moons shone with silver light. The fields of tall grass swayed gently, as if whispering secrets to the stars. Inside a small farmhouse, a child slept in quiet dreams. The walls hummed faintly with the sound of old machines that kept the house alive. Yet the silence felt deep and heavy, a silence that was waiting. On the wooden floor near the doorway lay a gray cat named Ash. His fur was marked with scars from many hidden battles with wild creatures of the land. He had lived with the family for years, and he had claimed the house as his own. His eyes were sharp, and his ears twitched at every sound. The family thought of him as a pet, but Ash thought of himself as a guardian. The child was his to watch, his to protect, his to guard through the shadows of night. The stars above the world burned bright, but among them drifted something darker. Far beyond the farmhouse, an ancient hunter moved. It was not from this world and not from this system. It was a predator that had crossed many planets, feeding on the weak and the small. It had hunted the children of countless species, and never once had it failed. To the predator, humans were only another fragile race, waiting to be tested. Tonight it had chosen its prey, a small heartbeat that echoed softly within. The farmhouse. Ash lifted his head. His whiskers twitched. He did not hear the predator's steps, for they were too light for any normal ear. But he felt something strange, a pressure in the night air, a ripple that warned him of danger. He rose to his feet and walked slowly across the room. His paws made no sound on the wooden boards. He stopped near the child's bed and curled around the base. His tail flicked once as his green eyes glowed in the moonlight. He would not sleep. The predator crept closer through the tall grass. Its form was cloaked in the night. Its limbs bent like blades, and its breath was steady and sharp. It studied the house. It counted the doors and windows. It listened to the steady rhythm of the human child's heart. To the predator this was an easy hunt. No guards, no soldiers, only a small home on the edge of the colony lands. It thought of victory already. It thought of the taste of fear and the cry of parents when they discovered the loss. Yet at the doorway stood something small, something ordinary, something the predator did not understand. Ash sat with his tail curled around his paws, his eyes watching the night. The predator tilted its head, confused. This little creature should run. It should hide. Yet it did not move. It only stared, and the stare was calm and unblinking, like a flame that refused to go out. The wind stirred the grass, and the predator paused. It remembered the many hunts of the past, animals that fled, warriors that fell, but never a creature so small and simple that refused to move. The child's scent was strong and sweet to its senses, but the cat's gaze was sharp and cutting. The predator stepped forward, and the earth seemed to hold its breath. Inside the house the machines hummed. The child turned in sleep, and Ash remained, steady as stone. The predator's claws flexed. Its jaws clicked in hunger. It thought perhaps the cat was nothing, perhaps a final test before the prize. Yet something in its chest shifted, a feeling that was not hunger, not rage, but something closer to unease. It shook its head and crouched lower, trying to shake off the strange thought. It had conquered dozens of worlds. It had faced armies. It would not fear a cat. Ash's ears flicked, his body crouched. He knew the night was heavy with danger. He could smell the strange iron scent on the wind. His heart beat steady but fierce. He was not a soldier. He was not a machine. He was a cat, and this was his home. The child behind him was his charge, his bond, his family, and nothing would pass while he still breathed. The farmhouse creaked softly. The night seemed to grow colder. The predator drew closer, step by step, and the silence deepened. Two beings faced one another, one old and monstrous, the other small and scarred. The moons lit the scene with pale silver, and the hunt that had never been lost was about to meet a defense that was not born of strength, but of love and stubborn courage. The child slept on, unaware that in the stillness of this night, the first step of a legend was being written. The night stretched long across the colony fields. The twin moons high above seemed frozen in the sky, shining with pale light that spilled across the farmhouse and the quiet land. The silence was thick, broken only by the soft hiss of wind through the tall grass. Shadows moved with the breeze, but among those shadows another figure slipped, silent, patient, and hungry. The predator moved like liquid shadow, its body low, its limbs bent in strange ways that carried it across the ground without sound. Its skin shimmered faintly, reflecting the grass and the sky, making it nearly invisible in the dim glow of the moons. Its eyes glowed with faint gold, its gaze locked on the farmhouse, and inside the walls it sensed the steady beat of a small heart, the heart of a child. It had stalked across many worlds before this night. It had hunted the young of other races, and it always succeeded. None could stop it. No guardian had ever stood long enough to matter. This planet was only another path, another hunt, another meal. Yet as it crawled closer, it saw something that gave it pause. At the edge of the farmhouse porch sat a cat, small, scarred, calm, and waiting. The predator crouched lower, confused. It expected a creature to flee. But the cat did not move. The cat's green eyes were steady, shining like twin lanterns in the dark. The tail curled slow, tapping lightly on the wood. The predator tested the air with its tongue, sensing no fear, only stillness, and that stillness unsettled it in a way it had not felt for many seasons. Ash the cat had felt a strange weight in the air long before he saw the shimmer of the hunter. His whiskers twitched. His ears caught the faint shift in the wind. His body was tense. His paws pressed against the floor, every muscle ready. Behind him the child breathed softly, unaware. Yet Ash knew that the piece of the house balanced on a knife. One step too slow, one blink too late, and the shadow outside would break through. The predator's claws slid out, sharp as blades. It wanted to finish the hunt quickly. No cries, no struggle, only the silence of victory. But again its eyes returned to the cat. Something in those unblinking eyes told it this would not be easy. It tilted its head, considering, wondering if the small creature had meaning beyond what it appeared, for in its long life it had learned that the universe sometimes placed strange guardians in strange places. The wind grew colder. The house groaned as it shifted in the night air. The child stirred in the bed, a tiny sound, and the predator's mouth opened in hunger. It crouched lower, preparing to strike. Yet before it moved, Ash rose slowly from his crouch, standing tall in his own way. His back arched, his tail lifted, his claws unsheathed. A low growl rose from his chest, not loud, not sharp, but steady, a warning, a promise that the shadow would not pass without a fight. The predator blinked. This was new. This was strange. Prey did not face hunters like this. Prey did not growl with eyes that burned in the night. It remembered old tales from other hunters, whispers of the human homeworld, Earth, stories of creatures that fought far beyond their size, ants that defended colonies with endless sacrifice, wolves that hunted in packs with perfect unity, and even small cats that never bowed. Perhaps those stories were not lies. Perhaps they were warnings. Ash stepped forward, his body low, his ears flat. His growl deepened. The predator hissed, its body rising to full height, towering over the cat. Its golden eyes narrowed, its limbs spread wide like spears ready to strike. For a long moment neither moved. The world seemed frozen, the farmhouse behind them silent, the field swaying in a rhythm older than memory. Two shapes locked in a quiet storm of will. The predator slashed suddenly, a strike meant to test, not to kill. But Ash leapt aside with sharp speed. His claws lashed across the air, catching the predator's arm. A thin line of dark blood spilled onto the wood. The predator hissed in shock. It had not expected pain. Not from this creature. Not from something so small. The cat crouched again, ready for the next strike, his green eyes unshaken. Rage stirred in the predator's chest, its pride wounded. Never before had such a thing marked its flesh. Never before had it been challenged by an animal of earth. Yet tonight it felt the sting of defiance. And that sting grew into something deeper. A strange echo of fear, though it fought the feeling, pressing it down. It stepped forward, claws raised, jaws opening with hunger and anger. Ash did not retreat. His tail lashed. His body leaned forward. He was only fur and bone, but inside him was fire, the fire of bond, the fire of guardianship. The child was his world, his family, his purpose, and no shadow, no monster, no predator could break through while he still drew breath. He knew this, and the predator seemed to sense it too, for its steps slowed, its eyes narrowed, its growl softened, as if it questioned the night itself. The wind howled, clouds crossed the moons, throwing deeper darkness across the land. The predator and the cat moved in circles, one larger, one smaller, The predator's claws scraped the ground, sparks of hunger in its gaze. The cat's paws tapped silently, his green eyes bright with challenge. The standoff stretched long, each heartbeat a drum in the quiet night, each breath a blade hanging above. The child turned again, murmuring in sleep. The sound reached the predator and pulled its hunger higher. It lunged, swift and merciless. But Ash leapt too, claws flashing, fur bristling. Their bodies collided with a hiss and a roar. The farmhouse shook with the sound. Dust drifted from the beams. The fight had begun. The predator tried to push past, but Ash struck again and again, claws finding skin, teeth biting. The predator slashed, its blows strong, but the cat twisted, dodged, clawed again. Pain seared its flesh, yet it would not stop, for behind him the child slept, and that was enough to carry him through every strike, every wound, every breath. The predator pulled back, stunned, its body bleeding from small cuts, its pride bleeding more. Never before had it been slowed. Never before had it been denied. And yet this cat, this earth creature, had stood against it and still did. The night seemed endless. The moons watched. The farmhouse waited. The predator hissed. Ash growled. The storm was only beginning, and the outcome was no longer certain. The air shook with the sound of claws against wood. The predator's strike landed heavy, tearing into the porch. Splinters burst into the night. Ash twisted aside and raked his claws across the hunter's face. Sparks of pain flashed through the predator's nerves. Its hiss rolled like thunder. The cat landed light on his paws, fur bristling, tail lashing, eyes glowing like green fire in the twin moonlight. The predator had never been marked so boldly, never by something so small. Its pride burned hotter than its wounds. It lunged again with speed that broke the air itself, its body a blur, its claws slicing the night. Yet Ash leapt upward, catching the predator across the jaw. His claws dug deep, tearing lines of dark blood. The predator screamed, sound cutting across the fields. Birds startled from distant trees. The silence of the colony night shattered. Inside the farmhouse the child stirred, tiny hands moving in the blankets. A whisper of unease passed through the dream, but sleep held tight. The parents did not wake. The machines hummed as always. Only Ash stood against the shadow, his growl filling the doorway, his body shaking but his eyes fierce. The predator backed a step, shocked that the cat had not broken, shocked that pain had returned again and again. The wind shifted, carrying the iron scent of predator blood. Ash's nose twitched. He crouched low, muscles tense like springs, ready to strike again. The predator lowered itself too, its golden eyes narrowed with fury. The hunter of countless worlds felt rage, felt disbelief, felt something close to fear. Yet its hunger pressed harder. The heartbeat of the child called from within the farmhouse, steady, pure, undefended, and the predator's jaws opened wide in desperate need. It lunged once more, heavier than before, striking not with precision but with brute strength. The porch shook under the impact. Wood cracked. The predator's arms swiped across. Ash flew back, landing hard against the wall. Dust fell. His body shuddered, but he rose again, his breath rough, yet his stance unbroken. His green eyes lifted and burned again. He hissed, tail high, fur raised, every sign a warning. He would not retreat, not now, not ever. The predator blinked. Something inside it wavered. Memory stirred. Whispers of old hunts, whispers of legends told among hunters, stories of earth creatures that did not bow, stories dismissed as myth. But now the myth clawed at its flesh. The myth growled in its face. The myth stood between it and victory. The predator roared, louder than thunder, a sound that shook the night sky, and charged again, determined to end the defiance. Ash met it head on, leaping into the storm of claws and teeth. His body slammed against the predator's chest. His claws dug into the thick hide. He tore downward with wild force, leaving burning marks. The predator howled and thrashed, striking wildly. Ash was thrown aside again, rolling across the porch. Yet once more he rose, staggering, bleeding, but alive, and in his eyes the fire grew brighter. The moons glared down, silver light washing over the battlefield. Shadows danced across the fields. The grass bent with the wild wind stirred by the clash. The predator stepped heavy, its wound smoking, its pride torn, yet its hunger remained. It swiped again. Ash ducked low, darted under its arm, and slashed its side. Blood sprayed. The predator shrieked, staggering, and for the first time it realized this fight was not simple. This fight was not guaranteed. The child murmured again. The sound reached them both. The predator's focus sharpened. Its body twisted toward the window, eyes blazing. Ash saw the shift. He knew the hunter would try to pass. He leapt again, higher than before, landing on the predator's back, claws digging deep, teeth sinking into the neck. The predator thrashed wildly, smashing against the walls, slamming into the porch posts. Wood cracked. Dust filled the air. But Ash held firm, refusing to let go. The predator crashed against the ground, rolling. Ash was thrown clear. He landed rough. Pain shook through his body. But he crawled back to his paws, growl rumbling again. The predator rose slowly, bleeding from dozens of marks, eyes burning with hate, its chest heaving. It had never felt so mocked, never felt so defied, and it realized that this tiny creature was not only blocking its path, this creature was destroying its legend. Across the galaxy, hunters spoke of this beast as flawless, unbroken, perfect in its kills. Yet here, on this quiet colony, under twin moons, the legend cracked. The predator felt it, the truth settling heavy. If it failed here, if it turned back, if it could not overcome even this, then its name would be nothing. Its fear would vanish from the stars. It would be remembered as broken, ruined by a single cat. Ash circled, his body shaking, his eyes never leaving the hunter. He was tired, his fur torn, his breath heavy, but his spirit stood tall. Behind him the farmhouse glowed faint in the night. Inside the child slept on, the family unaware, and Ash alone carried the weight of defense, small paws holding back a terror older than their world, and still he did not waver. The predator charged, a final rush, claws wide, jaw snapping. Ash met it in the center of the porch. The clash shook the walls. The sound rolled like thunder through the colony night. Claw struck claw. Tooth struck fur. Body struck body. Both creatures cried out. Both bled. Both refused to fall. The porch tore under their struggle, pieces of wood breaking away, scattering across the yard. The predator raised its arm for the killing strike, but Ash leapt again, higher, faster. His claws caught the predator's face, raking across the golden eyes. The predator screamed, blinded for a moment, stumbling back, crashing into the porch rail. Its balance lost. It fell heavy into the yard. Grass bent under its weight. Blood stained the earth. It clawed at the soil, hissing, snarling, furious. But Ash landed above it, crouched, growling, green eyes glowing with defiance, telling the hunter. The battle was far from done. The night held its breath again. Silence returned for a moment. Only the sound of ragged breaths filled the dark. The predator on the ground, the cat above, the farmhouse behind, the moon staring down like watchful eyes. The first clash had ended, but the war for the child had only begun. The predator growled low. Ash hissed back, and the air between them burned with a fire that would not fade. The farmhouse stood silent, its wooden frame creaking as if the old beams felt the weight of the storm unfolding outside. The predator rose from the grass, its body bent and scarred, blood dripping in slow dark trails. Its golden eyes burned with rage, yet one eye dimmed from the slash of claws. Its breath came harsh and uneven, and still it glared toward the small window where the child lay sleeping, the prize that had drawn it across the stars, the prize it had never been denied. Ash crouched above the yard, his fur torn and wet with blood, his breath heavy but steady. His green eyes shone brighter than the moon's. He looked not at the wounds on his body, not at the darkness of the yard, but only at the shadow rising again. His tail lashed, his claws clicked against the wood. He was battered, yet he was alive, and the fire within him had only grown, for behind him the child's steady breath reminded him why he fought, why he bled, why he stood unbroken. The predator hissed, sound rolling across the yard like thunder. Its pride demanded victory. Its hunger demanded flesh. Its legend demanded no defeat. It would not crawl away. It would not allow itself to be beaten by this creature. It stepped forward, heavy and sure, claws dragging furrows in the earth, its body bent low, its gaze fixed, its jaws opening wide, hunger burning hotter than pain, hotter than fear, hotter than reason itself. Ash leapt from the porch, landing light in the yard. He faced the monster head-on, his body small, his paws pressing into the dirt, his claws gleaming with blood already spilled. His growl rose deep and steady, filling the night with sound. The predator froze for a breath, unsettled, yet charged forward with a roar. The ground shook with its steps. Grass bent under its weight. The clash came sudden and violent. Claw met claw. Tooth met fur. The night tore open with sound. The predator struck downward, its claw slicing the air like a blade. Ash darted aside, slashing across its leg. The predator howled, spinning, tail sweeping the ground like a whip. Ash leapt above, twisting in the air, landing on its back, claws digging deep. The predator screamed, thrashing, smashing itself against the ground, rolling, trying to crush the cat. But Ash held, claws tearing, teeth biting, refusing to let go, his growl turning into a roar of his own. The farmhouse rattled, the child stirred again, tiny murmurs escaping in dream. The sound reached the predator's ears, sharp and cruel. It fueled its rage. It bucked harder, finally shaking Ash free. The cat flew through the air, crashing against the porch post. The wood cracked, dust rained down, his body rolled into the dirt. Pain seared through him, but even broken he rose again, limping, growling, eyes never leaving the hunter. The predator laughed, not with joy but with madness. Its golden eyes glowed, blood streaming from its wounds, yet it stepped forward again, convinced that the cat would break now, convinced that the end had come. But Ash moved once more, slow yet certain, his paws dragged through the dirt, his body trembling, but his spirit unshaken. He hissed, loud and sharp, and the sound carried across the yard like a blade of defiance. The predator struck again, claws flashing. Ash ducked, darted beneath, slashing its belly. More blood spilled. The predator howled and stumbled. Ash darted behind, climbing onto its back once more. Digging claws deep into its shoulders, the predator flailed, its body crashing into the porch again. Beams shook, would split, but still the cat held, his claws tearing deeper, his jaws biting harder. The predator shrieked with fury, with pain, with disbelief. The hunt had never gone so wrong, never. Inside the farmhouse, the parents stirred now. Faint footsteps in the hall, voices low, confusion rising, but the predator heard them too, and fear twisted with rage. It had to finish the hunt, had to take the child before the others arrived. Its pride would not allow escape. Its hunger would not allow delay. It charged forward, smashing through the yard, dragging Ash along as he clung to its back. Its eyes locked on the window, glowing faint with moonlight. Ash sensed its intent. His heart pounded. His body screamed with pain. Yet he leapt from its back and dashed forward, cutting across the yard, placing himself once more between predator and child. He stood, small and broken, yet unyielding, tail high, body arched, eyes blazing. The predator skidded to a halt, growl shaking the ground, for even now the cat barred its path. Even now the creature of earth refused to fall. The predator roared, louder than ever, the sound echoing across fields, rattling windows, shaking the air. But Ash hissed back, sharp and fearless. Their voices clashed like thunder and lightning. The night trembled under the sound. The stars seemed to burn brighter above, as if the universe itself watched this battle. A battle of size against spirit, of shadow against fire, of predator against guardian. The predator lunged, Ash darted. They collided again, claws slashing, teeth tearing, blood spilling. The fight raged wild across the yard, rolling through grass, smashing against walls, shaking the farmhouse. The predator stronger, heavier, more brutal. Ash faster, sharper, filled with fire that no wound could quench. They moved like storm and flame, tearing the night apart with every strike, every cry, every breath. The parents now opened the door, gasps rising at the sight. The predator twisted at the sound, its gaze snapping to the humans, fury rising higher. But Ash leapt again, striking its face, dragging its focus back, refusing to let it look away, refusing to allow even a single chance to break through. The predator shrieked, smashing against the ground, clawing at the cat. But Ash held, his claws burning into flesh, his teeth sinking deep, his growl endless. The yard became chaos, wood broken, earth torn, blood scattered, yet within it a story formed. The predator, ancient and unbeaten, faced defeat for the first time. The cat, small and scarred, stood as the line it could not cross. Behind him the child was safe. Behind him the family rose in fear, yet alive. The predator's legend cracked. Its pride shattered. Its hunger turned bitter. Its eyes burned with hate and despair. The struggle stretched on, breath after breath, strike after strike, neither yielding, neither falling. Yet the truth pressed heavier with each moment. The predator grew weaker, its body failing, its movement slower, while ash, though broken, still burned, still struck, still held the ground. The hunter realized the truth at last, that it would not claim this child, that this night would be its ruin, that the story of its defeat would follow it across the stars. Ash hissed again, his body trembling, his fur torn, yet his eyes steady. The predator staggered, bleeding, shaking, growling low, and for the first time in its long life, it stepped back, not forward. It pulled away. It lowered its body. It hissed not in power, but in retreat. Ash crouched, ready, daring it to try again, daring it to cross the line once more. But the predator turned, limping, staggering, dragging itself into the shadows of the grass, fleeing into the night it once ruled. The grass bent and whispered as the predator stumbled into the dark, its heavy body dragging across the soil, blood marking every step, its golden eyes dimmed, one nearly blind, its breath ragged, chest heaving like a broken bellows. Never before had it fled a hunt. Never before had it felt this weight pressing in its chest. It hissed low, angry, but beneath the anger something colder stirred, something it hated to name, something like fear. Ash stood in the yard, his body trembling, his fur torn in many places, his side bleeding, his paws heavy, yet he did not lie down. He watched the predator slip into the grass, his eyes steady, his growl faint but sure. Behind him the farmhouse lights had begun to glow, the parents now awake, their voices rising in confusion and fear, their weapons clutched though their hands shook. Yet Ash did not turn to them. His duty was not to explain. His duty was not to rest. His duty was only to guard, until the shadow was gone. The predator paused in the tall grass, crouched low, its limbs aching, its body carved with claw marks. It looked back, its golden eyes burning faint. The cat still stood, unmoved, small but unyielding. The predator felt a shiver across its skin. It remembered tales told in the deep nights of the hunter clans, stories dismissed as legend, stories of the human homeworld, stories that even the smallest beasts of earth carried an impossible fire. And now it saw that fire alive in those green eyes. It crouched lower, licking its wounds with a tongue sharp and rough. The blood tasted bitter, not the blood of prey but its own. A taste it despised, a taste it had not known in centuries. It wanted to roar, to tear the fields apart, to strike again, but its body refused, its strength drained, its pride broken. It knew that to attack once more would be to meet death, and hunters did not meet death with such foolish waste. Hunters lived to hunt again, yet tonight the cost was unbearable. Ash stepped closer to the edge of the yard, his paws sinking into the soil, his gaze following the predator's shadow. His tail lashed once, his whiskers twitched. He hissed softly, a sound not of rage now, but of warning. Leave and never return. The message carried clear though no words were spoken. The predator flinched, as if struck, because the hiss of a single cat had held more weight than the roars of armies it had silenced before. The farmhouse door creaked open. The parents rushed into the yard, their eyes wide, their hands holding crude weapons. They saw the torn grass, the broken wood, the blood scattered across the soil. They saw Ash, scarred and bleeding, standing tall before the window of the child's room. Their breath caught, their voices hushed, for they understood at once that their cat had fought something unseen, something dreadful, something that even now slipped away into the dark. The predator crouched deeper in the tall grass, listening to the voices of the humans, their tones sharp with fear, their words quick, their scent thick with adrenaline. It felt a growl rise in its throat, part hunger, part hatred, but again the weight in its chest pushed it down, for these humans had not struck it, had not denied it. No, it was the cat, the earth beast, the small shadow with green eyes. It was that creature alone that had broken the legend, and the thought burned hotter than hunger. It turned away, dragging its body farther into the forest at the edge of the colony fields, its wounds leaking, its pride leaking more. Every step felt heavier, every breath felt weaker, and in its mind the image of the cat stood clear, sharp as blade, those glowing eyes haunting it, those claws tearing into its hide, the growl steady and fierce. It knew the truth now. It had met a creature it could not break, and that truth poisoned it. Ash lowered himself finally, his legs trembling, his chest heaving. He sank into the dirt, but kept his head high, his eyes still watching the dark edge where the predator vanished. The parents knelt beside him, their hands reaching, their voices soft with worry. They whispered his name, called him guardian, called him brave, their words warm. Yet Ash did not relax. His ears turned still toward the grass, listening, waiting, for the night was not over until the shadow was far away. The predator reached the forest, its claws scraping bark as it leaned against a tree, its body shaking, its thoughts torn. It should have won. It should have taken the child. It should have left nothing but silence. Yet it carried nothing now but scars. Scars cut by a creature no taller than its leg. A creature born of earth. A creature that fought with spirit greater than armies. It snarled weakly, but the sound cracked, for even its voice carried defeat. It lifted its eyes to the moons above, twin silver lights that glared down like judgment. It felt as though the very stars mocked it. The hunter that had never failed, the predator that had ruled shadows across galaxies, now crawling, broken, beaten not by blades, not by machines, not by soldiers, but by a cat, a simple earth cat. And in that moment it understood the truth. Humanity was not dangerous only because of weapons or armies. Humanity was dangerous because even their smallest companions refused to surrender. The predator shivered. A memory surfaced. Long ago in the hunter clans one elder had spoken, "Beware the humans, beware their beasts, beware their bond, for their strength is not in the size of their warriors, but in the fire of their hearts." The young hunters had laughed, had mocked the old one. But tonight the predator remembered. Tonight the words echoed true. Tonight the predator finally understood. But too late. Ash closed his eyes for a moment, his body swaying. But his ears remained sharp. The parents carried him inside, laying him near the warmth of the fire, their hands careful, their voices soft with thanks. The child still slept, breathing gently, never knowing how close the night had come to darkness. Ash curled slowly, his tail wrapping around his body, his green eyes opening again just enough to watch the doorway. Even in rest he would guard. Even in pain he would not surrender. The predator crawled deeper into the forest, each step weaker, yet its mind alive with torment. The image of the cat burned into its vision. Its body felt heavy, but its thoughts heavier. For now it carried not only wounds but shame. Shame greater than hunger. Shame greater than fear. Shame that would follow it back to the hunter clans. Shame that would spread like fire across the stars, for others would hear of this night. Others would whisper. The predator had met earth fire and had broken. The night stretched on, the farmhouse quiet again, the family gathered close, the child sleeping, the parents awake, whispering thanks to the small guardian, their eyes soft with tears, their hands stroking his fur. Ash purred faintly though pain burned in him, his heart steady, his gaze steady. The predator gone for now. The danger past. But the story had begun, a story that would travel far, carried not by human voices alone, but by the whispers of the defeated hunter limping back into the stars. The predator collapsed at last near the river that cut through the forest, its reflection rippling in the dark water, its golden eyes dull. It growled weakly, vowing it would heal, vowing it would return, vowing it would one day claim what was. The forest pressed heavy with silence. The predator leaned against a tree, its body torn, its breath sharp and uneven, its golden eyes dim with pain yet alive with fire. Its pride could not let go. Its hunger could not release. Its name could not vanish into shame. It rose again though its limbs shook. It growled low, swearing to return, swearing to take the child, swearing to erase the shame burned into its flesh by the claws of a single cat. The farmhouse stood quiet in the distance, the light glowing warm in the windows. Inside the family whispered in low voices. The parents tended to Ash, their hands gentle though their hearts heavy. They pressed cloth against his wounds. They whispered his name with love. The child now stirred awake, eyes wide and innocent, reaching for the cat. Ash lifted his head weakly, his green eyes soft yet watchful, his tail twitched faint. Even in pain, his body still guarded. The predator crept back across the grass, slower than before, yet driven by madness stronger than reason. Every step tore its wounds wider, blood dripping, yet it did not stop. It would not stop. Not until it reclaimed what pride demanded. Not until the cat was crushed. Not until the child was taken. The moons glared down silver and sharp. The stars watched as silent judges. The night itself seemed to tremble with what was coming. Ash felt it. His ears twitched, his whiskers quivered. His body shivered though his strength had drained. He raised his head and stared toward the dark edge of the field, his growl faint but steady. The parents looked to the window, their eyes wide. They too felt it, the shadow returning, the danger not ended. The predator had come again, and this time it was desperate. This time it was enraged. This time it would risk everything. The predator broke through the grass, its roar tearing the night open. The family gasped. The child cried out. Ash staggered to his paws, his body weak, his legs trembling, but his eyes blazed green fire again. He stepped forward, slow yet sure, his claws unsheathed, his tail high. He faced the doorway once more, placing himself between predator and child, his small frame steady as stone. The predator saw him and roared louder, shaking the farmhouse walls. Yet Ash did not flinch. The predator charged, its body low, claws wide, its hunger wild. Ash leapt forward. Though weak his spirit burned, they collided in the yard, claw against claw, fur against scale. The ground shook, the walls cracked, the family screamed. But Ash struck again and again, slashing, biting, tearing, his body bleeding, his strength fading, but his heart unbroken. The predator clawed and struck, its power shaking him. Yet every time it pushed him down, he rose again, his eyes never leaving the shadow. The predator screamed with rage, its golden eyes wide. It slashed at the cat, tearing fur, spilling blood. But Ash leapt higher. His claws caught its face, dragging across its other eye. The predator shrieked, blind now in both, thrashing wildly, smashing into the yard, tearing the earth apart. Ash clung, his claws deep, his teeth sinking into the flesh of its neck. The predator rolled, smashed, roared, but Ash did not release. His fire brighter than pain, brighter than fear. The farmhouse shook with every strike. The parents pulled the child close, their voices cries of fear and awe, for they saw their cat not as small, not as weak, but as warrior, as protector, as legend. The predator stumbled, crashing against the porch, breaking wood, tearing walls, its strength failing, its body failing, its roar breaking into gasps. Yet still it fought. Still it tried to push forward. Still it tried to reach the child. But Ash blocked every path. Ash struck every advance sash, turned every moment into defiance. The predator staggered back, blood pouring from wounds, its body trembling, its claws dragging the soil. It lifted its head to the moons. It roared again, but the roar cracked. The sound no longer thunder, but broken echo. It lunged one final time, every muscle burning, every wound open, every ounce of fury poured into one strike. Ash crouched low, his green eyes locked, his tail stiff, his claws sharp. He leapt into the air as the predator charged, his body small yet his spirit vast. They collided in midair, the sound shaking the ground like storm. Ash struck its chest, his claws tore deep, his teeth sank into the throat. The predator gasped, stumbling, its limbs buckled, its body shuddered. It fell heavy into the earth. The ground trembled, dust rose, silence followed. Ash clung until the body stilled, until the predator's breath slowed, until the golden eyes dimmed. Then he let go, staggering back, his body swaying, his breath ragged, but his eyes steady, glowing like twin embers under the moons. The predator lay broken, its chest rising faint, its voice a whisper, a hiss of disbelief. It spoke no words, yet its silence told enough. The undefeated had been defeated. The hunter of countless children had been cast down by a single earth cat, its legend ruined, its pride shattered, its strength gone. It shivered once, then lay still, its shadow fading into the soil, its roar gone forever. Ash swayed on his paws, his fur soaked in blood, his body torn, his breath shallow. Yet he turned back toward the farmhouse, his tail flicking once, his green eyes softening as he looked upon the child in the window. Safe, alive, untouched. The parents stood in awe, their voices trembling with thanks, their hands reaching. But Ash only stepped forward once, then curled into the dirt, his body giving way at last, his eyes closing, yet his purr rising faint, a sound of victory, a sound of peace. The farmhouse glowed brighter now, lanterns lit, the family gathered around, their tears falling as they lifted the cat, their voices whispering guardian, protector, hero. The child clutched him close, small hand stroking his torn fur. Ash's eyes opened slightly, glowing still. He purred once more, his body heavy, but his spirit eternal. The predator gone, the danger ended, the night saved, and the legend written not in stone but in blood and courage. The stars above burned brighter, as if carrying the story already, as if whispering across the void that humanity's world bred not only warriors with weapons, but warriors with fur, warriors with claws, warriors with hearts that refused to break. The predator's body lay cold, its name gone, its fear gone, its story now one of defeat, while Ash's name, though spoken only in one farmhouse on one colony world, would carry farther, for whispers of earth fire always travel fast. The moons glared down upon the scene, silver and cold, yet the farmhouse shone warm, the family safe, the child asleep again in arms of love, the parents watching the cat with eyes wide, their whispers prayers, their hearts full, and Ash, though broken, remained a figure of defiance, of fire, of earth spirit. The predator had come for a child, but it had met something it could not understand, something it could not defeat, something it could not break, and that something was the heart of a guardian. The farmhouse was quiet once more, the echoes of the battle still clinging to the walls, the ground outside torn and scarred, the air heavy with the scent of blood and dust. Yet within the wooden rooms a strange peace had settled, a peace carried not by silence alone, but by survival. For the predator that had haunted the night now lay broken in the field, and the child slept safe in the arms of love. Ash rested near the hearth, his fur matted with blood, his body shaking with each breath. The parents knelt beside him, their hands gentle, their whispers soft. They spoke his name again and again, words filled with gratitude, filled with awe, filled with wonder that such a small creature had stood against a terror that even warriors would fear. The mother's tears fell across his back. The father's voice cracked as he whispered guardian, protector, hero. Their child leaned down, tiny hands, stroking torn fur, eyes wide with innocence, seeing not wounds, but only love. The cat opened his green eyes, the firelight caught within them, glowing like emerald flames. He lifted his head slowly, though every bone ached, though every muscle burned, and he looked first at the child, then at the door, always the door, for his heart would not rest while the shadow lingered outside. He curled his tail closer to his body, yet his ears flicked, sharp, alert, unwilling to surrender to sleep, not while there was even the faintest chance of danger. The predator lay in the yard, its chest barely rising, its golden eyes dim, its limbs spread across the soil. The moon shone cold upon its body, silver light tracing the wounds carved deep, the blood soaking into the earth. Its voice whispered low, broken growls of disbelief, broken breaths of shame. It had crossed countless worlds, slain countless children, left countless parents in despair. Yet tonight it had been denied. Tonight it had been struck down by fur and claw and spirit alone. Tonight its name had become ruin. The forest beyond whispered with the wind, leaves shivered, branches creaked, and already the smaller creatures of the land crept close, curious, drawn to the fallen hunter, sensing its weakness, sensing the end of a legend. The predator shuddered once more, a last breath sharp and bitter, its mind flooded with the image of green eyes, the sound of endless growls, the feeling of claws cutting deeper than any blade. And then it fell still, its body limp, its breath gone, its shadow faded into the soil. Ash stirred by the hearth. His ears twitched. He lifted his head slightly, as if he had felt the moment when the predator's life slipped away. His body sagged with exhaustion, yet his heart steadied, his purr rising faintly, the sound soft but strong, a song of peace, a song of victory. The parents leaned closer, tears filling their eyes. The child smiled in sleep, small lips curling in dreams, unaware of how close the night had come to losing them, unaware of the storm their guardian had broken. The colony field stretched quiet under the moons, but whispers had already begun. The wind carried the scent of blood and the echo of roars, and in distant homes others stirred, wondering what had shaken the night, what had broken the silence. Stories would spread by morning. Voices would tell of a predator that came for a child. Voices would tell of the shadow that was stopped by a single cat. Voices would tell of defiance born from Earth. And the story would not end here. The story would travel farther than the colony, carried into ships, carried into stars. Hunters across galaxies would hear it. Some would laugh, some would scoff, but deep inside they would shiver, for the tale carried a truth they all feared, that Earth bred not weakness but fire, that Earth gave even its smallest creatures the will to fight, that humanity was never alone in its strength, for around them, beside them, beneath their roofs and at their hearths, lived companions who would bleed and die to guard them, companions who carried the same fire, the same unbroken spirit. Ash closed his eyes for a breath, then opened them again. The child stirred, reaching in sleep, and the cat lifted his head to nuzzle the small hand, his purr deepening, his eyes glowing warm, his body battered but his spirit eternal. The parents watched in silence, their hearts heavy with gratitude, their hands resting gently on his fur. They knew no words could ever repay what he had done, but their love was enough, their home was enough, and Ash asked for nothing more than this. To guard, to watch, to be near. The moons began to sink low, the stars shifting toward dawn, the sky softening, the air cooling, the first hints of light pressing against the horizon, and still Ash did not sleep. His body curled, yet his eyes half open, his ears alert, his heart steady. He had fought the storm and broken the shadow, but he knew more shadows might come, and he would meet them too, as long as his breath remained, as long as his heart beat. As long as the child drew breath, he would rise again. The predator's body lay cold in the yard, its legend broken, its pride gone, and yet in its death it carried a message, a warning, a truth that would echo across the void, that humanity could not be taken easily, that Earth could not be mocked, that even a cat could stand against the greatest hunter and win, and that truth would ripple far, changing voices, changing minds, planting fear where once there had been only arrogance. Ash stretched weakly, his paws pressing against the floor, his claws sliding out, sharp still, ready still, his breath slow yet his spirit unshaken. He glanced toward the door once more, then toward the window where dawn's light began to press. He purred again, louder now, as if singing to the rising day, singing of victory, singing of guardianship, singing of fire. The family leaned close, smiling through tears, whispering his name, whispering hero, whispering thank you. The dawn broke at last, the first rays spilling across the fields, touching the broken porch, the torn soil, the fallen predator, touching the farmhouse, warming the wood, warming the faces of the family, warming the fur of the cat who had stood against the night. The story of this night would be told again and again, and though Ash would never speak it, though Ash would never boast, the world would remember, the colony would remember, the stars would remember, and the predator's clan would whisper in fear. Ash lifted his head to the light, his green eyes glowing brighter than the rising sun, his tail curled close, his body weak, but his spirit endless. He had faced the storm, he had bled in the dirt, he had stood unbroken, and he had won. And as the new day rose, the legend of the cat who guarded a child was born, a legend that would outlive predators, a legend that would outlive hunters, a legend that would burn across galaxies as a warning, as a promise, as a truth, that even the smallest of Earth will stand, and they will never yield.